Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 1 year anniversary of Movie Dudes. I'm your host, Phil,
And I'm Alec.
and so basically, this episode is going to be the 1 year anniversary celebration of the podcast.
Yep.
So we got a few things that we've prepared, a few topics, that kind of stuff. I guess the first thing we've prepared is we kind of wanted to go through the different episodes that we've made, the 25 episodes that we've made in that first year, and kind of give our thoughts on the movies and that kind of stuff. And yeah, so should we start with episode 1 or episode 0?
I mean, I can't really say that there's too much to say about episode 0.
Right.
But other than when we talk about some other things later in the episode. But yeah, not much there. I guess this is where I'll start with the numerous or like pointing out the numerous times that my recording situation switched up. Because this episode is the first appearance of me in my first apartment, and that will soon change. So moving on to episode 1, we had Run Lola Run, which was my recommendation.
And it's always, I always find that kind of funny because I always say, like, this is the proof that we use a randomizer. Because there was no way in hell that Run Lola Run would have been our first episode.
No.
And I think we've talked about that in the previous episode, but like, again, no hate to Run Lola Run. It's a really good movie, but like,
it's just like,
it's just, yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, we wouldn't have chosen it for our first episode, but we were also having trouble figuring out what our first episode should be.
Yeah.
So we're just like, let's just leave it up to chance.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's a good idea because I feel like we could have taken so much time just being wait, should it be this one? No, this one's not worthy enough.
It's better to just hit the ground running, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, Run Little Run was... I mean, I remember having a lot of time recording that first episode. I remember it being, like, so exciting. Like, it's a new adventure we're starting. Also, that was back when I was recording on my old laptop. So it had the shittier webcam. Now I've got the great Logitech C920, which is the webcam that all good streamers use. So now you got the great audio quality from me.
And I still got my Logitech webcam I've been using from the beginning, and my Blue Yeti Snowball that I've been using since, God, what was it, 2019, I think.
Yeah,
something like that. I don't know.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Like that's the thing that's cool is like we both started the podcast with like some pretty good audio quality, and I mean, we still got the same equipment as we had before, but
and it does
especially
the
for
job.
a podcast, like oh, definitely. Also, I just kind of want to point out that this is a podcast that we had with our old layout.
Oh yeah. I guess we'll
in
point
retrospect,
out, we'll point out when that old layout changes, which will be soon.
It's funny because in my head there were like a lot more episodes that had that layout, but it's like we only had like very few episodes with it.
It's very true. Yeah.
And I mean, thank God, because like it does not look great.
No,
at least compared to the one we have right now.
This layout is definitely better.
But yeah. Oh, and I remember too. Funny that we're a movie podcast. Our first episode is like mostly about anime, which is funny because
I would say like we're a movie podcast, like that comes first, but we're also just like in general, I guess, just most things media, like other than like music and video games, which we'll touch on sometimes, but like it's mostly like the filmed or like the animated kind of media that we cover it sometimes, and
Yeah.
there's definitely a bit of a discussion that you and I are gonna have later about something I watched that I know that you have. Uh,
Oh.
yeah,
Okay.
so that will be very very fun. But yeah,
Yes.
um, Run Lola Run. I can't really say that my opinions changed too much on the movie since the recording of the episode.
Uh,
Um,
I
I still
do.
I
Yeah.
still think it's just fun.
Yeah. It's a really fun movie. I think the whole atmosphere, the whole style of the movie is really really great. I feel like I don't know that many German movies, and it's kind of funny because I feel like I have a massive gap in my knowledge of German movie. Like there's German expressionism in the 1920s, and then there's Ron Little Ron in the 90s.
There's well,
Um,
see, it's like there's gaps like that, and then there's things that I just do not know very much about at all. Like I know
yeah.
next to nothing about Middle Eastern movies. I know very little,
Yeah.
and that's something I want to
Have
change.
you ever seen? Yeah.
But what's that?
Have you ever seen a single movie by Abbas Kiarostami?
I do really want to watch Close Up soon.
All right, we're gonna have to make an episode on Close Up because it's such a good movie. It's really good. So that will happen in our second year for sure.
Of course.
Uh, but I mean, I say that I've seen two Abbas Kiarostami movie, and I haven't seen anything else really from the Middle East. So
Hey,
that's also
it's a better
something I'll have to
start.
change
It's a better start than I have.
for sure. But I want to like watch at least one movie from every single country in the world.
Oh, definitely.
I want to do that at some point. Um, but yeah, I think that's kind of it for the first episode.
Yeah. So moving on to episode 2, we have
Episode 2.
House.
Yes.
Which was your recommendation, and is also
Yeah.
just a movie that we both adore.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of funny because like I remember that in both the episode 0 and the first episode, we talked quite a lot about House, and it's kind of funny that it randomly, we were able to get House so early on the podcast. But that was great.
I feel like even if we didn't get it like randomized in the first couple of goes, one of us would have said that we were going to talk about it, just like foregone like the whole randomizer.
Yeah.
And House, I would
For
say,
sure, yeah.
or in this episode, I would probably say is my first example of just an episode I have very fond memories of, because I remember,
Yeah.
I remember watching House, rewatching it for this episode, and like I had seen it, I think 3 times at that point, and that's still the amount of times
really?
I've seen it. Yes, that's still the amount of times I've seen it to this day. But it was on that third viewing where I was like, oh my god, I kind of love this more than anything. Like it is just, it's so lovable, it's so fun, and I just there's no other movie that compares to it. And I've over the past year converted a lot of my friends to the House cult.
Yeah, I still haven't gone to like convert anyone, but I'm like my brother likes a lot of weird movies, and one day like I'm gonna convert him to
Of course.
the House cult. Yes, he will join us. But I've talked about this movie to my brothers a few times, and every single time they were like, "Dude, I gotta watch that." And one day, I'll show them, because it's like just explaining it to them. The first time you hear about House, it's just such a crazy concept, and you think, "Wait, is that an actual thing that exists? Really?" And then you watch it, and you're like, "Oh shit, it is." And
yeah, it's
I know
something.
we've talked about that, but we really have. Well, I don't know if you have, but I really have to watch some more stuff from the director
Nobuhiko Obayashi.
Nobuhiko Obayashi.
I
Yes.
I need to as well. I have owned
Yeah.
Labyrinth of Cinema on Blu-ray for like a few months at this point, and I still haven't watched it, and I feel awful about that. But I also haven't been watching very many of my Blu-rays that I really should be watching, and
Yeah.
that'll change once I move for sure. Once I get my TV and stuff set up, because right now I'm kind of living off of my my laptop and my Switch.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, I guess if anything has changed about my opinion of House since our recording of the episode, I would just say I've come to appreciate it a lot more. If that were even possible.
Yeah. Well, that's my thing about House is I don't know what happened to me, but it's like as if like it's like it doesn't surprise me as much, you know, like it's like the almost as if the magic is gone. It's not exactly that. It's not that far, but it's like to me House is for sure a 5-star, and I love this movie and I love everything it is. I love the craziness of it, but I don't.
It doesn't
like you know. It wasn't
you're not sitting there going like,
yeah.
whoa, like every 5 minutes, like like the first time. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it wasn't my top 10 in episode 0, and it's not anymore. That's kind of like to give an idea.
Really?
But
I would say it's not in my top 10 either. I don't know if I'd say it's in my top 15, but it's definitely in my top like 25 or so.
Yeah, I'd say so as well.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy it, and I will say something for a little later in the podcast. There is an episode, a movie coming up that has very recently made it into my top 10 that was not there before, and I'll mention what it is when we get to a certain part of the podcast.
Great.
Yes. But that's about it for episode 2, I'd say.
Yep.
And that was also the last video that, or the last episode that we recorded while I lived in my first apartment. So that's location number 1, which was my studio apartment. And so moving on to the third episode is Ex Machina, which was a very interesting one because I hadn't revisited that film, I would say, since maybe 2014. It had been a very long time since I saw that movie.
Yeah. So basically when it came out, yeah.
Yeah, basically, it was 2015 when it came out, that's right. So it would have been around then or maybe a year later. So still a really long time to go from watching a movie that you really like. And I like it still, but I don't think it's not as mind-blowing as it was the first time. But it's still, I still think it is very good and is definitely the best thing I've seen from Alex Garland.
For me, it was kind of weird because like I'd never seen Ex Machina before, but in my head it was like I don't know why, but I had the image of like I thought it was going to be much more of an action movie for some reason. I don't know. I knew it was a movie about robots, and I thought, oh, robots go. Bleh. I don't know. But I was surprised to find out that it's much more of an auteur movie, and it's honestly I think it's a really good movie. Yeah, you know, it's not in my top 10 or anything, but it's
of course.
I don't remember what rating I gave it. I think I gave it that's right, a 4-star.
Yeah, I think it's still like a very high 8 out of 10. I would stick it there. I guess
agree.
nothing really much has changed since the Ex Machina episode.
Not really.
But in the next episode was Memories of Murder. Episode 4, which is another case of a movie really, I guess, digging its way into my subconscious since our episode. I have not watched it. I have not rewatched it since that episode, but I have maybe watched the last 10 minutes on YouTube, probably like once a month for the last year, because
Oh, that's great.
It's made it into like my top 5, like easily like top 10 endings ever. Like that is so. It's such an insane moment in that movie that not a lot of other movies have. Not a lot of other movies have like replicated how amazing that is.
I mean, and to me, it's crazy to think that, like, you know, I love Memories of Murder so much, and to me, it's such a masterpiece. But it's only my 3rd favorite movie by Bong Joon-ho. Just to show,
just to put that into perspective.
The guy's fucking crazy. Yeah. Like the guy's
he's
insane at his job. Like, I swear to God, by the end, I don't know how long the podcast will end, but by the day that Movie Dudes will end, we'll have talked about all of his movies for sure.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind. I hope that we go on long enough that we can talk about every movie he's ever made.
Yeah.
And will ever make.
But like yes.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where my thoughts on it have gone in the past year. What about you?
Yeah. And they haven't really changed. Still a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at the time it was my 2nd favorite movie by Bong Joon-ho, but then I discovered The Host. The Host is so good, and I find it highly underrated, and I'm very excited for the day that we'll talk about it on the podcast, because it really, like, you know, it was a Bong Joon-ho movie, so I knew it was gonna be great, but it almost like kind of took me off guard with how good it was. We'll have to talk about it like on its own episode, but The Host is such a good, and we haven't even made an episode about Parasite.
No, we haven't, but I'm kind of thinking of a good time that we can do that. It'll be soon. Yeah. I was thinking of foregoing the randomizer one of these times on a very good number. Just to throw Parasite out there now that we've kind of mixed up our order, because, you know, before for the first 25 episodes of the podcast, it went I'm on the, like, my movie recommendations would be on the odd episodes and Phil's would be on the even. So now that we've mixed it up with this episode, it's the other way around. So I've kind of started thinking about
fucked it up.
I've started thinking about where I would recommend certain movies, just kind of in the future. But anyway, I guess that's kind of all I have to say about episode 4. It was also, I guess I forgot to mention that episode 3, Ex Machina, was the first appearance of my 2nd location that I've ever recorded in, which was my bedroom in my 2nd apartment, and that would not last long either. Moving on, we have episode 5, A Silent Voice.
Yes,
which was our first anime movie, or just animated movie in general, that we talked about. Which was an episode that I did a lot of preparing for on my own.
That's right.
I ended up reading the manga, and I really am glad I did that, but I also, it's like one of those things where it's like, oh, I don't know how interesting that episode is to listen to, because a good half of it is me talking about the manga, and it's like, I'm sure that's fine for some people, but it's like, oh, I'm sure it feels like ranting. I don't know. It's just like a thought I've had whenever I like give a good look through the episodes again, but but I do. I still love Silent Voice, and my opinion hasn't really changed since our episode on it. That's kind of it. What about you? Did you have anything?
You know what's funny is it's kind of an episode that I sometimes kind of forget that we did, Like
I will say
by
so as
that I
well.
mean, yeah, because like when I think about like the different episodes that we've made, it's like never one of the first ones that comes to mind.
Oh yeah,
It's yeah, I don't know. It's just yeah, it's I don't have a lot to say about both the episode and the movie in itself. I
yeah.
mean, Sound of the Voice is a great movie, but I've said like my opinion hasn't changed since the
Yeah.
episode.
So I guess that would make us move on to the next episode, episode 6, which was Harold and
Yes,
Maude, which was
and the first
a movie that
yeah
you talked up for
yes
pretty much every episode up to that point.
yeah and a, it's a movie that was like I was already really hyping it up at the time, and I actually love it even more today.
Mm.
But we'll talk about it later. But yeah, Howl and Mott is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it is unfortunately weird to explain it to people.
Yes, I
Yesterday, I
agree.
tried to explain it to someone, and the I only got like kind of weird looks of like, wait, what the fuck is that? But I get it. It's not, it's not your usual movie, I guess.
Yeah,
But I
I
think,
think it's cute. I think it's a cute movie.
it's yeah,
I really
very
like
cute.
the soundtrack too, and it's been one of those record releases because I believe it was a recent record store day. They did a pressing of Cat Stevens' soundtrack for the movie,
Yes.
and I see it sometimes in
Yep.
record stores, and I look at it and I just go, "Oh, soon."
Oh yeah, like if I was to like have a vinyl collection, like it would definitely be one of the records that I want to get.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
funny because like um the other day I was just in my backyard just like chilling, and my mom was there as well, and I was playing like some music from my Spotify playlist on our Bluetooth speaker, and there's "Don't Be Shy" by Cat Stevens that started playing, and my mom was like, "Is that Cat Stevens? Yeah, you listen to Cat Stevens? Yeah, he's fucking great."
Yeah.
And this song in particular is by far my favorite of the soundtrack. I think it's such a beautiful song. Um,
Which
and
that's another thing we could touch on is just like
mhm.
the sheer amount of like soundtracks we've come across over the last
Yeah,
year. Like they've all been
yeah,
pretty great. Like I'm listening like right now I have a Spotify playlist that I intend on sharing on Twitter probably sometime after this episode goes up of just
uh huh.
all the movie soundtracks that I was able to collect on that are on Spotify
Mhm.
currently. Like right now I'm listening to the Houses soundtrack. But there's also just like
Mm. That was good.
yeah, there's unfortunately Run Lola Run soundtrack is not on there. Oh no, it looks like Monty Python and
Yeah.
the Holy Grail soundtrack got taken off. Oh,
Oh,
that is a
that's a shame.
shame. Well, the rest of them are still
Yes.
decently intact, so I will be sharing that soon. But anyway,
I would have liked to. I would have liked to have the Run Little Run because I think it's like such a crazy one because it's this really like German electronic music like that sounds so like it's so late 90s early 2000s, and it's like this type of music fits in a 5-year gap only, and
yes.
I think it's so funny, but it's great. I love it.
I agree completely. Um, but yeah, I mean, for me, I've kind of thought in passing with Harold and Maude, and that's not to say that I don't like the movie because I really did
Yeah,
like the movie, but it's more of a movie that like
right.
I don't. It's not a movie that I kind of sit there and think about. It's a movie that I put just kind of in my headspace, and then I wait until like there's just a day, and like it'll come back, and I'll be like, oh yeah, Harold and Maude is really nice. And
Yeah,
I
no, I
really want
totally get
to
that.
I really want to rewatch it sometime, especially now that I, have the criterion of it that I got a few months back.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I guess moving on to episode 7, we have
Mm-hmm.
Punch Drunk Love, our first PTA movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still just I really like it. It's still my favorite
Yeah.
Paul Thomas Anderson movie I've seen, and I haven't seen a lot.
Uh-huh.
I'll preface that.
Yeah.
But it's just great. It's just a great time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I will say, so that was my first time ever watching a PTA movie, and it's, I don't know, like, yeah, it's really good, but it just hasn't really like stayed in my mind very much. Like, I feel like I've kind of forgotten about it a bit.
That's fair.
Yeah, but I have to watch some more stuff. I really want to watch There Will Be Blood. I feel like that one
Oh yeah.
I could connect
to.
to. I feel like I could connect to it a lot more, because the only other PTA movie that I've seen was Licorice Pizza in preparation for the Oscars, and that actually was kind of a disappointment for me.
It's
I
very.
thought it was.
It's a very like. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say it's like half baked, but it's definitely lacking in the kind of, I guess, polish that a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson movies seem to have. And maybe that's intentional, maybe it's not. I don't know.
Who knows? But I feel like I've heard so many people say like, "Oh yeah, Licorice Pizza is great," and then I saw it and was like, "Oh, that's the movie I've been hearing about."
Yeah, it's decent. I think it's a fine movie.
Yeah,
it's a little above average.
I will say, I do wish Cooper Hoffman the best of luck for his career, because I really hope he could get
I loved him in that movie. Yeah,
he was great. He was great, and Elena Haim as well. They both of them were great, but that's one of the things is I didn't really like necessarily their characters.
Yeah, I didn't. That's
more a question of writing.
Yeah, both of them did great with what they were given, but I think the writing could have definitely used a lot of work.
Yes.
I mean, far from it for me to tell Paul Thomas Anderson how to write a movie, but but still, that is just what my thoughts on it are.
Yes.
But yeah, so Punch Drunk Love. And the next one was a movie that I was very, very excited to watch, and has still remained in my mind as one of the most fun movies that we've watched for this show. Tampopo, which is so absurd. It's just such a fun, like, goofy movie. I really liked that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm glad you liked it as much, because like that was a movie that like I remember. I don't remember exactly when I heard of it, but I think it was like in some kind of YouTube video, and then I think around 2 years ago I started subscribing to the Criterion channel, and I was just browsing through the movies, and at the time I really wasn't familiar with the Criterion collection, so I didn't know most movies. And then I just saw Tampopo, and I was like, oh, wait, it's there? Because I thought it was like a movie that I'd never get to watch because it would be like too obscure. Then I saw it, it was like, oh, I have to watch it. And I've loved it ever since.
Of course, yeah.
And now I even own the Criterion Blu-ray, which is so cool.
And so do I. And
it's great, yeah.
I've been looking for just kind of a reason to rewatch it. I don't know when though. I don't know. Maybe just one of these nights I'll.
Yeah.
When I move back to school, I'll gather some friends and we'll have a ramen and Tampopo night because they really want to watch it, and I'm kind of the only way they can.
Yeah. You're their Tampopo. Shit, I forgot the word. Never mind. All right.
Liaison.
What's the word for like? No, for like when you're giving drugs to someone.
Dealer.
Dealer.
I'm their Tampopo dealer.
Yeah. Hey kids, want some Tampopo?
Want some funny Japanese ramen movie? Oh
By
man.
the way, I didn't talk about it since I did, but like last month during my watching one movie a day challenge,
Mm.
I saw another movie by Juzo Itami who made Tampopo, which is Supermarket Lady,
Ooh.
um, and it was okay.
Okay.
It's I'll say it's basically Tampopo, except instead of being like a woman that has got a ramen shop, it's a dude that's got a grocery store,
Okay.
and it's kind of boring.
Oh, that's a shame.
Uh, but that's that. Yeah, this is definitely not as good as Stampopo, but still.
Yeah.
Um,
So I
yeah.
guess next would be the beginning of our. Oh, forgot to mention, Tampopo was
Oh.
the third location that I've recorded in, which was my dining room, which I would record in for a good chunk of episodes actually.
A while, yeah.
I would record in there for a while because of the numerous problems with my room at the time. Uh, but you know, I've talked enough about it. So, Rocky Horror Picture Show um, is a movie
Yes.
that I just keep finding myself loving the more I think about it. It's just
Yeah.
goofy and fun.
It's so much fun.
Yeah,
Like, it's so entertaining, and I just there's too much good stuff in this movie.
oh, it's one of
It's
my favorite musicals as well. It's a
yes, the
soundtrack that
musical, the songs.
I
Ah,
continuously revisit. It's just so good.
yes. It
Yes.
constantly gets in my head, whether it's Time Warp or I forgot the name of the other song, but if it's the other songs, they all get in my head, especially Time Warp. But
Mm,
point is, Rocky Horror Picture Show is really good. Tim Curry is the fucking best.
he
This,
is.
in my opinion, is his best performance in his entire career. Holy shit, the
It's
character.
super definitive. It's like amazing.
It's
Um,
yeah, too
but
good, too good.
that was our first that was the first of our two movies that we covered during our Halloween
Yes.
period of time, which will be longer this year because we'll actually plan it out
Yeah,
and have movies lined up.
yeah,
So,
and I'm so excited about it. I cannot
oh, me
wait.
too.
Because
But
Halloween
yes,
movies are so fun.
they are. Just horror movies in general are so fun to
Oh
talk
man,
about.
I
I already
love
think
them.
I already think I have my two picked out, and I'm so excited. But it's not that
I
far
got
away
I
actually.
got one that I wanted to talk about. It's not. It's
It
hold
really
on. We're in
isn't.
July, so it's
Yeah, we're in
like
July. It's 3 months.
3 months. Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah, it's
actually
not there, but
about
it's
2.5 months. So it's
yeah, two
we're
and a half
getting
months.
there.
Yeah, yeah,
Or from when we're recording this.
yeah.
Um, but anyway,
Mm-hmm.
the next movie that we covered is my favorite movie of all time, The Shining, directed by Stanley Kubrick. Uh,
Yes, and it's still our
and
only Kubrick movie that we've talked about.
yes, which I'm sure will change sometime soon, because
Definitely, definitely.
there's just a whole lot to talk about with that man. But
Mm-hmm.
The Shining, big movie.
Yes.
It's just, yeah. I mean, I've kind of said all I really wanted to say about it in that episode, but it's very scary. I love it a whole lot. Obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just
Yeah.
great.
It's to this day, it still is what I think is the best horror movie ever made.
Oh,
Um,
I would agree.
yeah,
Um,
it's just great.
yeah, but for our
I guess
next
that's kind of
episode,
it.
moving on from the first 10, we have our currently most viewed episode at the time of recording this,
Yeah.
Perfect Blue by Satoshi Kon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that movie is just stellar. I don't really know what else there is to say. There's
It's probably
Oh yeah, go ahead.
probably the best directorial debut I've ever seen in my entire life.
I would have to go through.
It's
I'd have to
actually
go through
insane,
and look.
but
I'd have to
yeah,
go
no.
through and look, but I would say it's definitely like top five of my favorite
I would
directorial
go
debuts.
yeah, I would go through some of them and look to see if it actually is, but I doubt it's something else, honestly, just since like how well crafted it is as a movie. Um, and I mean, Satoshi Kon made 4 movies in his entire career, and they're all, in my opinion, absolute masterpieces.
Hmm.
Um,
And I still have yet to see
he's
two
yeah,
of them, but I'm very excited to eventually.
yeah,
Uh,
yes, and I still have to see the Paranoia Agent, which is the anime,
yes.
the TV show that he's made, which looks bonkers, but it looks so cool.
um,
um, yeah.
but next would be another classic, Spirited Away.
Yes. So
Which
two
go
anime
ahead.
movies in a row.
This I kind of forgot we did that, but yeah.
Yeah.
uh, I mean,
Um.
I think
mhm.
I've seen Spirited Away enough times to know what my opinion on it's going to be forever. I mean,
Yeah.
at least for like the next 10 years. Like I can't see myself really changing my mind about it too much. Uh, it's just
Yeah.
it's fun. It's a really nice adventure. The animation's gorgeous. Um, that's kind of all I
Yeah.
got. I don't
It's
know if you got anything for that.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just like that's Miyazaki at his best. It's like, I mean, Miyazaki is not a director that you watch to like analyze his movies and be like, oh, this
No.
shot means this thing, like I don't know, like Kubrick or something like that. But with Miyazaki, it's really more like get immersed in this crazy universe that is so cool and so beautiful, yet also kind of scary and dangerous, and
Yeah.
it's the perfect movies for kids because they're so beautiful and they're so yeah, and they're very, I guess, subtle in their meanings, and
Mm.
I will say it is not my favorite Miyazaki, but it is a in my top 3 with Princess Mononoke, and my favorite is Howl's Moving Castle, which I guess we'll probably talk about at some point, but like
Oh, we'll
this
definitely
movie is
talk about
just
it.
is just so good.
Oh yeah. But yeah, Spirited
I love
Away,
it. Yeah.
great movie. And
Yeah.
the next episode is our first
Hmm.
kind of non what's the word? Just kind of non-traditional episode. We talked about Bo
Yeah.
Burnham's Netflix special Inside. Um, which, in the retrospect of having him release the Inside outtakes very recently, I guess kind of like outdates the episode a little bit. I'm still fine with
Yeah.
us doing it when we did. Um,
Oh yeah. I,
but it's
I mean, yeah.
oh, go ahead.
I mean, I never thought that he would do something like that because I
No,
thought
we
like
could have never
with
predicted
something
it.
like Inside. Yeah, I thought honestly that Bob Burnett would be like, all right, here's Inside. I'm not touching it again.
Yeah,
And then
I
he
thought
just does
so.
that. And I'm like, okay, never
I thought
mind.
so. I thought so as well. But
And
he's
I'm very
been
glad about that because there's a lot
he's
of good
been
stuff from the extras.
yeah he's been really
My favorite being the Spider song,
that is my
uh,
girlfriend's favorite as
which
well. She loves that
yes,
one.
such a good song.
um, yeah,
Spiders.
Spider. Um,
Uh,
I personally I
yeah,
love I'm trying to think of what my favorite would be. I love 1985. Um,
1985. Yeah, the chicken.
there's the chicken, incredible.
The chicken's
Um,
great.
but yeah, I mean,
Oh, 5 years. 5 years
5 years
is good,
is so
and I
funny.
see it. I see it all the time on TikTok, and I love it. Like, uh,
uh,
it's so good. Yeah.
I
Um.
recently went on
mhm.
vacation with my girlfriend, and it's very, very accurate. And I just realized that before, just being in a relationship for that long. But it's just like extremely accurate, especially with the line about the whole like stealing the food and just like why didn't you order some when we got there. It is a thing that she does a lot, and when I it's funny because when I played that song for her, she's like, I feel called out, and I'm like, maybe you should.
But yeah, I mean, Burnham is just such a massive inspiration for me, and
oh yeah,
I feel like Inside is just one of the most well crafted things I've seen in the past 5 years.
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite. Like it's automatically at like the top 5 of the 2020s already. Like it's just so incredible.
It is. It is definitely, without a doubt, my favorite thing that Netflix has ever produced.
I would say it's definitely in the running for that as well, if not my favorite thing.
And it's just, yeah. And I'll be. Can I just say, I feel like one of the parts of the, like, there's a lot of songs and a lot of moments of the special that really stick to me, but I feel like the moment that I feel is the thing that makes it all worth it, the big moment, is like the ending is just, we were talking about great endings with Memories of Murder, but like Inside, like it's I just think it's so great. It's the best ending possible.
Oh yeah. A moment that has,
I mean, I love the, yeah. I was gonna say I love the chicken song, but this is a better ending.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I don't really even see Inside Outtakes as like its own, or I don't really see it as a cohesive piece of work like Inside is. I just kind of see it as just kind of him throwing together just this nice collection of things while still trying to keep some kind of semblance of a special. But I like it. I like it a lot, and I think a lot of the material it's pretty amazing. But as for original Inside, a moment with it that has, I guess, evolved, at least in my mind, from when we talked about it, and of course from the first time that I've seen it, is All Eyes on Me, which has easily become my favorite song from the whole project. It is just, it's such a very like it's such a, like a moment where you realize like, oh, this is not the same special that we started watching. Like it's such a moment of like, it's such a, I guess, I don't know if I'd say it's a tonal shift, but it's definitely a moment where everything gets a little bit darker. Inside is just an incredible special that is so good, and I think everybody should at least watch it once to give it a try.
Yeah.
But I guess moving on, we have Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, am I back? I'm trying to look at this on my phone to see if I'm back in my room. Yes, I am. I'm back in my room at this point.
Yeah.
Because my ceiling was fixed, which was very short-lived. But we got a good few episodes in before that all fell apart on me. But yeah, Monty Python, Holy Grail it was a lot funnier than I remember it being when I was younger.
Right.
It was just I remember laughing a lot more watching it for the podcast. And yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of just another really great moment with that. The other thing I was going to mention is that it is one of our shorter episodes, and that's because there wasn't a whole lot to talk about in terms of just kind of the movie itself. There's not a whole lot to dissect because you kind of get what you get, but you get some amazing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could have tried to go as like and explain it's funny, but why is it funny? But like, I feel like none of us are really experienced in like comedy and that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, it's more. It's also more of a thing. Is like a lot of it's just kind of dumb, like dumb funny.
Well,
Like,
yeah, a
but
lot of it is just like, yeah,
there's also just like there's really like just smart jokes. Like I love. There's one joke that made me laugh harder than like it ever did before, which was like there's like the peasant who keeps talking back to Arthur, or to to the king, and he just keeps going like, she's like, well, I didn't vote for him. It just like talks like somebody would now to like a politician. I just think it's really it's just such like a jarring moment. I was like, oh.
It's what's great about Monty Python's comedy is it really is like, all right, so this is what people would expect from this situation. How can we completely flip it over and do something totally unexpected? I think one of my favorite scenes that made me laugh so much the first time I saw it is, well, there's two scenes. First of all, there's the scene with like, "'Tis but a scratch,"
Of course.
which is such a classic. But there's also the scene at the end with the bridge and with the riddles, which it's so like, I feel like that's kind of a shame. It's a joke that gets a lot less funnier when you rewatch it. But when you don't expect it, you don't know what the punchline is, it really like takes you by surprise. And I remember thinking it was so funny. But yeah, Holy Grail is just a classic. One of the best comedies of all time.
I agree completely. But our next movie was our 15th episode, as well as our Christmas special. Yes. It's a Wonderful Life. Which I still think it's a classic, and it's still probably my favorite Christmas movie. But rewatching it for the episode, I guess it's not that it's not that it dropped in favor in my mind, but it's definitely, I don't love it as much as I did when I was younger. I still think it's great, but it's definitely not like as great as it was the first time I watched it. And I suppose that just kind of has to do with age, or perhaps just having seen it the first time. Who knows?
I mean, before I saw it, I'd heard so many people say like, oh, It's a Wonderful Life is one of the greatest movies ever made. It's such a masterpiece. It's a classic and all. And I thought like, it's good, but is it really that good?
It's not. It's not like it's not revolutionary, no. But it's a good movie.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's a good movie, but it's like, for example, a movie directed by Frank Capra with Jimmy Stewart that I like more is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which I think I just prefer the story. I prefer the character, and I think in general it's just a better movie. But for some reason, which maybe it's really related to the holidays, It's a Wonderful Life is the movie that's considered as the classic that everyone knows, which is weird because it's like most of the movie isn't even during Christmas, but I guess it's like because it's got the whole Christmas Carol inspired thing that it's considered as a holiday movie. Sure. But I mean, it's a good movie. That's kind of it. Yeah,
I agree completely. But the next episode 16, is another one of my favorites that we've probably ever done. I love it.
Yeah.
It is our first trilogy, or our first episode covering multiple films, which is on the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, which was a doozy of a rewatch for me, because I rewatched those movies during my first ever COVID quarantine. It was the first time I ever actually had COVID, and I just remember being pretty sick and being pretty delirious and watching those movies. And I don't know if I told this story on the podcast, but it's a memory that sticks out so well for me during that time. I didn't have much food in the house because I wasn't able to really. I mean, my mom sent like groceries over to my place, like
Right.
via like whatever grocery apps there are or whatever. But it wasn't a whole lot. So I did DoorDash a few of those nights, and
Mm-hmm.
the first night, or I guess it was when I was rewatching the first Spider-Man, and I was so like delirious after being as sick as I was, that like the food got there, I got it, and I came back up and I was putting it on, I was putting it on my TV tray, just so I could sit there and watch the movie while I was eating, and my soda fell over and exploded all over the ground, and I just like immediately was like just devastated. I was like, no.
Oh, no, that's the worst.
I was like, that was all I had. I was like, now I gotta watch the movie without that. Oh no. Like in retrospect, it was nothing, but at that moment, I was so upset. I was like, that sucks.
Yeah. That was kind of an unfortunate episode, because like it got delayed so much for like for that, because you got COVID, and then once you were done, you texted me like, "Oh, I'm fine now," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not."
Yeah, that was bad.
I'm pretty sure I didn't do a test, but I'm pretty sure I did get COVID as well.
Yeah, that was our movie dudes COVID episode, or I guess post COVID.
I guess so. So that fucking sucked. But I think when I got sick, I'd already rewatched the movie, so that was kind of like a normal Spider-Man rewatching experience. Which, like, can I just say, those movies are fucking good.
They were a lot of fun. It was one of those things though where it's like
they really are some of the best.
I had
superhero, even action movies. Yeah,
I had watched them when I was a kid, but I hadn't rewatched them until this episode. And like just kind of growing up throughout my teenage years, I kept hearing everybody go like, "Yeah, it's so obvious that Spider-Man 2 is the best one." And I don't really think I agree. I think I love Spider-Man 1 way more than the rest of the trilogy. Like it's got Goblin. The origin story is good. It's the movie with the least amount of Peter and MJ drama. And it's just I just like it. I just like it a lot.
Well,
but I love the
way I see it is
But I love obviously I love Doc Ock. But I can see why people would say that 2 is the best. But I realized during that episode that I didn't agree.
Yeah, it's so the way I see it is like, I feel like objectively the best Spider-Man movie is Spider-Man 2, but with my own opinions, subjectively, I just love Spider-Man 3 so much. And I know what people will say. Except the thing is, I don't give a shit. Spider-Man 3 is, so first of all, I don't know if I've ever said that. Spider-Man 3 is the first memory, like the oldest memory that I have watching a movie ever. Because I know that I saw it in theaters, and I have very vague memories of seeing it in theaters. And that was 2007, so I was 4 years old. And I don't have, I think, older memories of watching a movie. And I saw it in theaters, and then I got it on DVD, and I used that DVD so much. And I get the criticism. I totally see like there is definitely some stuff that does not work in the movie, but I feel like there is like some people that like, I feel like I don't understand people who say that this is a bad movie. Yeah, well, so I that's the last thing I'm gonna say, and then we'll move on to another episode. But one moment that I feel like gets way too much hate is the like emo Spider-Man, and I'll say especially the scene where it's like him dancing. That famous scene. I feel like a lot of people don't like it because in their head it's like they think, oh, they were trying to make like a dark scene, but it's just so cringy and all. And it's like, yeah, that's the whole fucking point. Like, it's meant to be like cringy.
I like it.
Peter
but
is
I think I
yeah.
I like it, but I don't think I like it for the reasons that they intended me to. I just love Tobey Maguire being such an asshole throughout that entire part of the movie. I think it's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, like there's this one scene that I just love rewatching, and it's the scene where like it was Topher Grace is Topher Grace playing Eddie Brock is like talking to Peter while he's in the black suit, and he's just like and like Peter jumps into the sewers to chase after Sam, and he just goes, "See ya, chump," and then he like just jumps in a really funny way, and then just goes right down. And Topher Grace just, "Hey!" And that is one of my favorite black suit Spider-Man moments.
I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of scenes that were made to be a lot funnier than what people think. Maybe definitely not every single scene, but especially the scene where he's like walking the street, like acting like a jackass. Like, do you guys really think they made that scene thinking like, not thinking that like it was ridiculous? It's made to be stupid.
You even have people making like dirty faces at him when he walks by. It's funny.
Yeah. It's like, it's obviously supposed to... The scene is obviously there to make him look like a dumbass, which is what he was. But anyway, just to say that Spider-Man 3 is my personal favorite of the trilogy, and I, for very personal reasons, will always feel this attachment to this movie, and I always love it. But, so yeah, that's that.
So for the next movie, we have episode 17, American Psycho. Which is just a movie I love a whole lot.
Same.
Yeah, and I really think there's for a lot of these episodes that we've talked about or that we've done in the past like year or in 2022. I guess there's not going to be a whole lot to say because we've seen the movies recently, so it's not like our opinion's going to change that much. But yeah, American Psycho is great.
Yeah, I'll say it was my first time watching it.
Oh, that's right.
And I did really like it. Obviously, we'll say we're not those idiots who like I really identify with the main character.
No, definitely not.
We're not. We definitely see it as like this is a criticism of the types of people that he is. He's a sociopath and all, and but it's a really well made movie, and Christian Bale's really good in it. I love the scene where he kills Jared Leto, not because he kills Jared Leto, but just the scene in itself.
No, I love it for
that
reason. I'm kidding.
Have you seen the parody of that scene with Weird Al?
Yes, that scene is incredible. Yeah, where Huey Lewis is walking around. He's like, "Have you seen American Psycho?" It's like that's a great. It's classic. It's probably the funniest thing Funny or Die has ever made.
and it's funny because like I never realized that the reason why they made that parody, part of why they made that parody, is in the original scene they were talking about Huey Lewis. Yeah. So they made the skit with Huey Lewis, and I think that's pretty cool.
No, I love it.
But yeah. All right. So next episode is Chungking Express, which is one of our shortest episodes. Again.
Which I mean, we gave a lot of time to the movie, and it was more just kind of a thing like, I guess we didn't really have a whole lot to say and a whole lot to keep a whole conversation going. But Chungking Express, it's I still love it. It's probably my favorite Wong Kar-wai. But yeah, I mean, just a great time.
And we were talking about soundtracks earlier.
I have had.
This is one of my favorite use of music ever in a movie.
I've had a really weird experience with the song "California Dreamin'" in the last month. where
Yes.
I'm serious. This is not a joke. About maybe once a week, I will go into a public place and California Dreamin' will be playing on the radio. When I was on vacation with my
that's
girlfriend,
weird.
when I was on vacation with my girlfriend, I heard it 5 separate times in different buildings.
What?
It was so
That's
weird. No, we'd be at dinner, and I would just hear dun, 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 and I was like, I was like, not again. I was
following you.
My life had become directed by Wong Kar-wai for a few days. I was just like, what is happening right now?
Dude, I fucking wish my life was directed by Wong Kar-wai.
Oh man, I was just so it was very surreal. It was very surreal to think about that and be like, in the context of Chungking Express.
Yeah.
Man. But Chungking Express, incredible movie. And I guess next
love it so much.
Next, we'll talk about one of my personal favorite moments in this entire podcast, episode 19, Solaris, which we scheduled and did not even realize that we were recording and releasing the episode the same week as Solaris' 50th birthday. Which is so insane that, like, we just did that.
So weird. Yeah, it just happened.
Like, I cannot stress enough how much we didn't plan. That is so funny to me.
Yeah. And I'll say, like, Solaris is one of those movies that I'm really surprised at, like, how much I liked it.
Yeah, me too.
But Solaris is, like, a really good movie, and I honestly think it's better than Stalker, which I know most people say is Tarkovsky's best movie. Mm-hmm. It's just fucking good, man.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that I remember. It was one of my very first Criterion blind buys, and I remember thinking, I'm like, okay, there's either going to be 2 outcomes to this. I'm gonna love it or I'm gonna hate it. And I remember sitting there giving it my full attention for all 3 hours, and just ending up just being at the end and just being like, I adore that. And I'm so happy that it's a movie that I love as much as I do.
For sure.
But yeah, it's great. But our next episode is another double episode. Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters, and Mishima's movie Patriotism. And while I really want to rewatch Life in 4 Chapters very soon, just the story on its own of Mishima has, like, grown on me and just, like, stayed in my head ever since we did that episode.
Yeah.
Like, it is such a he is such a fascinating man. And
for sure.
I recently was looking into, like, every time I go to a bookstore now, I'll go and I'll see, like, okay, what Mishima books do they have? And very often it's not much. And I really want to get I really want to get the ones that were talked about in this movie especially. But you know, it's not very often that a movie wants to make me read a bunch of books. So that's definitely something to get. It's a beautifully made movie with a very, very interesting score. It's just great.
Masterpiece.
Sure. And Patriotism is one of my new favorite short films that I've probably ever seen. Just based on visuals alone. Like, in terms of, like, the story, there's not much there, but just, like, visually, I would say it's one of my favorite short films at this moment in time. But moving on past our 20s, or into our 20s, we are with episode 21, Her, which
Yeah.
was I would say like the first time I saw it was last summer, and I loved it. Like I think I gave it 5 stars when I watched it, and rewatching it, I think it's about 4.5 stars now. But I still love it. I still think it's a very good movie. It's still my favorite Spike
Mm-hmm.
Jonze that I've seen. Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. How has it grown on you, if at all?
It yeah, it hasn't really like grown on me. It's just, I loved it the first time I saw it. That was the second time I saw it, and I loved it again,
Mm-hmm.
and I still love it to this day. But
Yeah,
I really don't have that much to say
neither do I.
about it. But yeah.
For episode 22,
Um.
we had a Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which
Mhm.
I remember being one of your top 10 movies from our first episode.
Yes.
And
Um.
yeah.
And I'll be honest, it's not in my top 10 anymore.
Really?
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, it's. I mean, it's still in my top 20, so
Mhm.
that stays there. That's it. But I don't know. It's just it. It's not exactly like. I don't know. It just I. It's not even that I don't love it as much, but it's just I don't see it as that much of a masterpiece as I used to. I
Right.
guess,
No, I get that.
but
And my thoughts obviously
yeah.
haven't changed that much since we talked about it very recently. Um,
Mhm.
Episode 23, we had Little Miss Sunshine, which is just a really cute, fun movie.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
yeah, there's not really much else to say on that. So are you good if we move on to 24?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have a lot to say about it since like I I just finished editing it today, so it's
Oh,
also
yeah.
pretty fresh in my
Still pretty
mind, and
fresh,
I
yeah.
don't really have. I don't have a lot. I mean, the wall is one of the best use of music in a movie of all time. The wall project, like from the album, the concerts, and the movie, everything is just so great. To me, it's such a cliche thing to say, but to me, it's the best album ever made.
Mm.
And I feel like the movie is such a masterpiece, and I love it so much.
Yeah, it's amazing, and there's not really much else to say. Um,
Yeah.
but for our last episode that we'll reflect on for our year one episode is our Wong Kar Wai love trilogy episode, which
Mm-hmm.
it didn't really change my perspective on Days of Being Wild. It helped with some things in the mood for love, and it
Mm-hmm.
I would say it kept my love for 2046 kind of in the same place.
Right.
But it made me appreciate a few details a lot more.
Yeah.
And that is the most recent time that my location has changed for an episode. It is now
Yeah.
in a storage room at my parents' house, where all of my stuff from my apartment is just laying around. But yeah, that's the first 25 episodes of Movie Dudes,
Yes.
and I'm very excited for more to come.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts, if you have anything to say about the Love trilogy?
I mean, I kind of said everything I had to say in the episode. I was a bit disappointed with Days of Being Wild. I loved In the Mood for Love more than I did the first time, and I was again a bit disappointed with 2046. But I think it's more a question that I'll have to see it again because the story was a bit too complicated for what I had expected, and I guess that just kind of took me off guard.
I wouldn't even really say it's complicated for sure, but it doesn't help that it's told in a way that's slightly obtuse
Yeah.
and just a little too
Mhm.
like a little complicated. So yeah, it's I can totally understand
It's weird.
why you'd think that
Yeah.
way.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Um.
let's see. Uh, but I guess since we're done with that, we can move on to a big topic that we had planned
Mm-hmm.
for this episode. Would you like to introduce it?
Yeah. So next for the episode, what we had planned is so for those who have seen our first episode, episode 0, basically what most of the episode was basically us giving our top 10 favorite movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And in the past year, obviously our tastes have changed. We've seen a lot of movies, and we've got a different top 10. So I thought it would be cool if maybe every year we gave an update on our top 10 favorite movies of all time.
Yes.
So I just got, all right, there it is. There's my list. Um, so how exactly should we do that?
I guess we don't really have to make that big of a thing of it like we did in our first episode. Where
Yeah.
It's like you go first, then I go first, then I go next.
Yeah.
But like, I think like we could just run through it, like say which ones have been cut, say what movies have replaced, or just kind of
Yeah.
are new to it, and just kind of go from 10 to 1, and see like what positions have changed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you'd like to go
Uh,
first.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm currently looking through the first top 10, and I just want to update and give the films that I've removed from my top 10. So at number 10, there was House, and it's not in my top 10 anymore. Same thing for Ed Wood by Tim Burton. That one's out. Scott Pilgrim, as I've mentioned earlier, has also been cut, and I think that's it. Yeah, so every other movie that I've mentioned is still there. So basically, number 10, a new addition. It's Millennium Actress by Satoshi Kon.
Ooh.
Which actually, you know what? I just thought about it. I'm gonna upgrade it to number 10, to number 9. I mean.
Oh, okay. So what's your number 10?
Yes. So I guess now it's number 9, but it's Millennium Actress, which is, in my opinion, my favorite movie by Satoshi Kon. I think it's such a masterpiece. But the movie that I switched it with, which is now number 10, is
Oh.
Being John Malkovich, which was a massive surprise for me. I did not expect to like it as much. Charlie Kaufman, to me, is one of the greatest writers in the history of cinema. And I love his style and I love his work so much. And to me, Being John Malkovich is just his best work.
Mm.
Then number 8 is The Grand Budapest Hotel, which I think was like number 4
I think so.
in the list. And then, but yeah, so now it's number 8. Then it's The Shining, which I think was a bit higher in the first list.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got an upgrade to number 7. Then it's Parasite at number 6, which I think pretty much stayed exactly where it was before.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And then it's Tampopo at number 5.
Ooh.
I've given it some thought recently, and honestly, I do think that it is worth being this high.
Okay.
Then my top 4 is very similar to what it was. At number 4, we got Fight Club. At
All right.
number 3, we got Forrest Gump. Then at number 2 is Harold and Maude.
Wow.
All right. I'm currently working on an analysis of Harold and Maude, which I have no idea when it's going to come out.
Okay.
And it's basically like back in I think April, I had like I rewatched Harold and Maude because I just felt like it, and I had this sort of like realization that like it's really like that high in my favorite movies. I just I feel like in some conversations with some people I could even say that like it is my favorite movie But in this conversation, I will say that my favorite movie is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, which
Ah,
is the
okay.
same the same number one that I had last year, and
Yes.
it's purely personal choices. Um, but Harry Potter is just very important to me, and that's that.
Well, all right. For mine, uh, I would say I have removed two movies from the list. I removed my number four spot, which was Damien
Mm-hmm.
Chazelle's La La Land. Um, and I
All right.
also, let's see, which number was it? I believe it was my number three. But I also removed Pulp Fiction from the top 10. It
Oh,
was just, it was more of a thing, like, I gave him thought, and it's like, I love those movies, but I don't really think at this point in time I'm willing to say that they're that high on my list anymore.
yeah.
Uh, but I do think the replacements that I have for them are pretty good. And my placements have shaken up a little bit, a little bit. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess to kick it off, number 10 is Richard Linklater's Before Sunset, um, which was
Huh.
a movie that really just blew me away uh, upon watching it. And maybe sometime in the future I'll rewatch it again and just kind of see, oh, maybe it's not top 10. But at the moment, I feel comfortable placing it there with how much I really love that movie. Um,
Hmm.
and number 9 is The Social Network, which has, I
Right.
believe, gone down a little bit, but not by much. It's still a movie that I love a whole lot and I think is really just amazingly made. And number 8, we have that thing I mentioned earlier about one of the movies making it into my top 10. Number 8 is American Psycho. Uh, it was something I realized
All
during
right.
during our episode of it. I kind of sat there and I was like, "Yeah, this is like a 5 star for me." And I'm like, "But would it be in my top 10?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think so." So yeah, it's still great. Number 7 is the end of Evangelion, which has moved up quite a bit. Number 6 is Spirited Away. Number 5 is Old Boy, the South Korean version, obviously.
Yeah.
um, Number 4 is Wes Anderson's The Royal Tenenbaums. Uh, Number 3 is Bong Joon Ho's Parasite, which objectively might be the best movie on this list. But if we're talking like
Yeah.
what I would say my favorite movies, Parasite is number 3. And number 2, Clerks, which I don't believe has moved at all. Uh, and number
Mm-hmm.
1, we have The Shining, which has not moved a single bit.
Right.
Um, and I guess if I had to say like an honorable mention of just like, or actually, no,
Yeah.
I don't have any honorable mentions. I don't know. I don't know what the thought
Well,
behind
I
that
mean, I
was.
could give a bunch.
Oh, I'm
I could give a
sure.
bunch of honorable mention.
I'm sure
I
we
do
both could.
have. I feel like in our following segment of the episode, I will give. There's two movies that I'm gonna give that are honorable mentions. I think at
Okay.
least no, at least one.
Well, all right. All right.
Yeah.
Um. So I mean, I guess there's not much really discussion to be had on it. Just kind of, you know, keeping up with where our
Yeah.
movie tastes are. Um.
Yeah.
But to get into another segment that we've planned, uh, we were going to talk about another thing that we are going to do probably every year when we do this special episode is just 5 movies, or just kind of a top 5 favorite movies that we have watched for the first time in this past year. They can be from any year in the past. It just matters that our first viewing of it was within the last year. It was a movie that really stuck with us. It could be a new movie, it could be an old movie. Uh, but I guess we'll just get into that. So if you want to go first for that one as well.
Mm-hmm. Sure. All right. At number 5 is a movie. I think it is the most recent 5 star that I gave, which was a bit over a month ago. It is Come and See by Elim Klimov, which is it's considered as one of the best. I think it's one of the highest rated movies on Letterboxd, and I for sure understand why. It's a Russian movie about stuff that happened in Belarus in during the Second World War, and it shows an absolutely horrific vision of what really happened during the war, and it's really really difficult to see, and it's honestly, I will say, I think it's fair to say it is the most disturbing movie I've ever seen in my entire life. And honestly, for a big chunk of the movie, I was like, I mean, yeah, it is disturbing, but it's not that bad. And then it was the last 20 minutes, the end of the movie really like shocked me, and I did not feel good, but for a good reason, like in a good way.
Okay.
And the acting is just out of this world. It's honestly like the main character honestly gives one of the best performances I've ever seen in my life. This movie really is a masterpiece, and so something that I notice is a thing that I like about movies is when a movie is able to make me feel stuff.
Oh, I agree completely.
Like a movie that keeps me emotionally active is a movie that I tend to really like. And I mean, Come and See is just such a powerful movie that I had to give it a 5-star. I highly recommend it to those who are not shocked easily, because if you are easily disturbed by that kind of stuff, do not watch it. It's probably too much for you. Next is a massive classic, I feel. It's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, with Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. I honestly feel like Jim Carrey is one of the best actors in Hollywood, like both in terms of comedy but also in terms of drama. Like, I don't know, I feel like not enough people, like he's never in any like best actors list, because like when people make best actors list, they basically make the actors that are like, that have won Oscars and stuff, but they don't give it really to comedy actors, and I feel like Jim Carrey really deserves it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I mean the whole thing, I really love stories that are based on dreams, and movies that are sort of like kind of weird in the way they're made, and with weird shots and that kind of stuff. And I feel like Eternal Sunshine is such a great example of that. And I absolutely love this movie, and I highly recommend it to everyone, honestly. Number 3 is The Elephant Man. By David Lynch. Yeah, that's another really dark movie. I don't know what this says about me, but I feel like all the movies on this list are really dark. That was 3 really dark movies, and the 2 other ones aren't really much better for that.
Right.
But The Elephant Man is, in my opinion, the best so far, the best thing from David Lynch that I've ever seen, and such a well-crafted movie and all. And I was talking about emotionally powerful movies, and that one for sure, like, for sure is powerful in many ways. But I guess it's kind of that for number 3. Number 2, and so I'll be kind of contradicting myself a bit.
Okay.
But I'll explain once I'll show everything. So number 2 is Being John Malkovich, which I've talked is now in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And yeah, I've already talked about it a bit, so I'm just gonna go to number 1, which is not in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. Yet I did put it higher than being John Malkovich. And that movie is Enter the Void.
Oh yes, yeah, you talked about that.
So, yes I did. It's I can't really. It's very difficult to explain this movie. But when I say that it is an experience, it cannot be described. It needs to be lived.
Right.
And this movie is an experience that I had never I'd never seen anything like that before, and I don't think I ever will again. It's one of the craziest fucking things I've ever seen. Again, I will say it's definitely not for everyone. There's a lot. It's not a movie that's made to be like fun to watch. It's definitely not very fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of the greatest examples of like, this is what movies can be. Like, yes, movies can also be just like very linear stories and stories about superhero and all about CGI. I feel like such a jackass saying that, but it can be all about the CGI and the action and all, but it can also be about that kind of stuff. And to me, I hate myself so much for saying that, but to me, this is art. And I want to sap myself so bad for that. But I do still think that. But I also want to tell myself to shut the fuck up, so I think that's what I'm going to do. But just and what I wanted to say is I'm not really sure. Honestly, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to have to make some really quick changes to my top 10 because you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it,
all right,
Enter the Void is gonna get in.
Oh, okay.
Which means that being John Malkovich is not in the top 10 anymore, but the number 10 is now Enter the Void.
Okay.
You know what? It's never too late to make changes to your top 10
never
list.
Never too late.
That's what I'm gonna do. Fuck it. So what about you?
Well, I feel like this goes without saying, but all of these that we mentioned are probably going to be talked about eventually on this podcast as like their own episodes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But number 5 is actually a movie that we did talk about on the podcast. Number 5 is Mishima: A Life in 4 Chapters.
All right.
Which, as I said earlier, is just a movie that has really, really stuck with me in the last year. So that's why it goes here.
What's that?
Was that
the first time that you saw it?
Yes, it was.
Was it for the? Oh, really?
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Well, that's great.
But number 4 is the only very recent movie on this list, which is Everything Everywhere All at Once. Which, the more I think about it, the more I just have a lot of fun with it. I recently was able to pick it up on Blu-ray, so I'll be rewatching it very soon. It's just an incredible time, and probably one of the best things A24 has ever made. It's not my favorite thing they've ever made, but it's up there. It's really good.
Sure.
Number 3 is one of my favorite theater experiences of the last year, Tetsuo the Iron Man, which is just the most... it is one of the most disgusting, body horror movies I've ever seen, and I love it.
Yeah.
It is so crazy. And
looks cool.
Yeah, it's a great time. And I'm kind of holding off to talk about it on Movie Dudes until it is more available on streaming services. Because at the moment, I don't think many streaming services have it, or any at that.
A few months ago I tried to watch it and I couldn't find it anywhere, so I kind of had to abandon the idea.
Right.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So we'll talk about it eventually. It just needs to get on streaming.
Yeah.
But number 2 is Princess Mononoke, which yes, I did watch. That was my first time watching it this year. I watched it in theaters, which was an incredible experience. The movie is just so good. The animation's so good. Mm-hmm. It's a lot more violent than I expected a Studio Ghibli movie to be.
Yeah. It is pretty violent, but I think that's for fucking cool.
Oh yeah, it's a very cool movie. But number one is a movie that I have not stopped thinking about since I watched it. And that was about 7 months ago. And that is Charlie Kaufman's I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Which is just so good.
It really says something that we both have a Charlie Kaufman movie in our list.
It really does.
Yeah. It just says that he's fucking good. He's the man.
He's the guy. He's the guy. Yeah. He's the guy.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, those are the movies that have stuck with me a whole lot in the last year or so.
It's crazy.
And I
need to rewatch it actually.
Oh yeah. It's one of those movies that, like, I don't know where it places on my favorites list. I just know it's on there. I don't know yet. I need to rewatch it and let it sit with me for a bit. But it is one of my it's one of my favorite things Netflix has ever produced. Now that I remember that it was a Netflix original, which is crazy. Right. But yeah, that's my top 5. So,
yeah,
I guess now we could get into more of our regular topics that we talk about a lot, and that's just kind of stuff that we've watched recently.
Yeah.
And so, would you like to go first with some of the movies you've watched recently?
Well, I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff because I finished my like one movie a day in June challenge. So you can go first, and I'll just look through like the movies that I want to talk about.
I gotcha. So right. I haven't watched a ton of movies, but I have watched a good bit of TV that I guess I'll touch on here and there. But the movies I watched were right. I watched I can't remember if I talked about this in the Wong Kar-wai episode, but I watched a Netflix documentary called Our Father, which I thought was okay. I went and I saw Jurassic World Dominion.
I think you did mention that.
I went and saw... Yeah, which was not good, but it wasn't as bad.
That's what I heard, yeah.
It wasn't as bad as the second one, which was just one of the most boring movies I've ever watched. This one was still boring.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong. I don't remember anything really about it, though, except for one scene where a guy lights a bunch of giant locusts on fire and they spew out into the night sky, and it's just so over the top and goofy that I was crying laughing in the theater.
Right.
But the other movie that I watched, which is a very, very exciting one, is a movie that I found quite by chance because my girlfriend and I were on Hulu because we were about to watch some more Demon Slayer, and we were scrolling through the homepage, and we noticed a little something. We noticed the movie was coming out on Hulu, titled The Princess, starring the one and only Joey King.
Oh.
It is an action movie starring Joey King. And so we were like immediately like, oh, we gotta watch that. And I am going to say something that I never thought I would ever say about a Joey King movie. It is not the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It is easy.
All right.
It's like I would say like a very low 4 out of 10. It is a very solid movie. Joey King, granted, does not have to do a whole lot of acting because it is primarily an action movie. It is mostly action scenes. The acting in general is not very great, but I mean, it doesn't really need to be, I guess. the action scenes are fine. It's a very
Right.
solid movie. But it's like, I guess I didn't expect it. I thought it was gonna be so bad because, I mean, come on, she's cast. Her name in the credits is the princess. She doesn't have a name, and I think that's so funny. But that's another one to add to the Joey King cinematic universe, and that's far and out the best one.
Right.
But I'm very excited because my knowledge of the Joey King cinematic universe is about to expand even more when Bullet Train comes out next month, which
Yes.
I do not have much faith in.
Yeah.
But I am very excited, and that was another thing that my girlfriend and I decided to do after watching. We were like, how many movies exactly has Joey King been in, like very prominently, that we haven't seen?
Yeah.
And so we narrowed it down to just kind of a rule of like, she has to be in the top 10. She has to be in the the top 10 mentioned billed actors and actresses of that movie. And we narrowed it down to 17 that we haven't seen. So all in all
right.
We will eventually watch all of these because we hate ourselves apparently. But
Yeah.
they will all be watched, and I will eventually talk about the final result of the Joey King cinematic universe list. But that was just kind of a fun revelation I had recently. But in terms of TV shows I've watched, I finished Atlanta season 2 today, and I really liked it. I don't think it was quite as funny as the first season, but it was more cohesive. It had a lot more of story arcs going on between episodes.
Yeah.
I finished the first season, or the first arc of Demon Slayer, which I thought was good. I didn't think it was incredible. There are a couple things that I have a lot of hang-ups about. I don't know. Have you seen Demon Slayer?
Yes. Just the first season though.
I do not like Zenitsu. He brings it down quite a bit for me.
That's a weird thing because I feel like it's either you love or you hate Zenitsu. And I kind of love him. And I guess I understand the whole thing of like him being annoying and everything. I just didn't really feel that way.
I get it. No, I get it.
Yeah.
I guess for me it was more of a thing like Tanjiro is just a very solid character. He doesn't really offend much, but he also doesn't really like get onto my good graces or anything because he's not like the most interesting dude in the world. Nezuko is awesome.
Yeah,
I love Nezuko.
Good.
And Inosuke is just funny. And
Yes.
I guess it was just Zenitsu. Just so often we'd get to like his part of the episode, and I'd be like, I am not ready to listen to this dude whine for 5 minutes. And I really do hope that in the future arcs that it lessens a little bit. And my girlfriend says that he gets a little better, so I'm happy about that. But we'll be starting the other arcs sometime soon. I finished Lost season 2, but I won't talk about that much because of spoilers and stuff. But the big thing that I would like to talk to you about is I started Stranger Things season 4.
Yes.
I'm currently 3 episodes in. So if you would like to discuss anything from those first 3 episodes, I'm totally down.
Sure. Well, what'd you think of it?
I like it so far. Where I left off, okay. Whamp whamp, big spoiler warning. Put a timestamp right here and then right to the end of the whole section, and you can just skip right over it if you haven't seen Stranger Things. If you don't care, or if you have seen Stranger Things, I guess just continue on. But where I left off, I'm trying to remember the exact cliffhanger where I left off. The cliffhanger was, I think, that Vecna was starting to communicate with Max. So that was where I left off. But I like it so far. I think a lot of the characters are being handled really well.
Yeah.
I like the way that a lot of them have evolved. I'm really interested to see where most of them go. I think it's like I like everything that's going on. I think my major problem right now, though, is I think there's just a lot going on, and it's really hard to, I guess, keep it all intact in my head while the episode's going on, because I didn't realize this until during one of the episodes, 'cause I'm watching it with my girlfriend right now. She fell asleep during one of the episodes, and then she woke up like 20 minutes later, and she was like, "Oh, what happened?" And then I sat there and I'm like, "Oh shit, I don't know how to describe it." So like, so much has happened that I don't know how to summarize it adequately.
Well, I feel like it was always that way with Stranger Things, where at least for every season you at least had 3 storylines, which were the kids with Eleven and Mike and all those. Yeah. Then you had like the teenagers with Steve and Nancy and all, and then you had the adults with Hopper and Joyce.
Yeah, but I guess that
was kind of that. Yeah,
those were a little easier to keep track of. But for the most recent episode, Chapter 3 that I watched, there was Hopper in Russia. That was one. There was Joyce and Murray going to Alaska. That was 2. There was Lucas and the Jocks trying to find Eddie. That was 3. There was Dustin and that whole gang trying to figure out the source of Vecna. There was 11 and the whole roller skate rink thing, which I guess you could loop in Mike and them with that one. So that's 5. That's 5 stories that was going on in that episode. And it was starting to like kind of spiral a little bit near the end. But I think it's handling it well. It was just one of those things where it's like I felt overwhelmed.
Yeah. I will say I do think that the way everything all goes together, I do think it works well.
That's
but
good.
We'll talk about that.
I'm very excited to see how that goes. And I'm not really sure when we'll be done with it. I'm sure we'll definitely have a bit more progress in it by the time that we do the next episode. It's just that these episodes are very, very long. In fact, all but one of them are actually feature length. Just felt like I'd bring that up, and I was very shocked when I was looking through Netflix right before we started. I'm like, oh, this is a lot more than I thought there'd be.
Yeah.
But I'm really liking. I'm really liking it so far. I'm really excited to see where it all ends up. I'm liking Vecna a lot more than I thought I would. Because he's a lot less. I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
He's a lot less like, I guess, cosmically scary, like some of the other entities have been. But I like him. I like him.
Yeah. Because the thing is, the Demogorgon was like a monster, and then you had like the Mind Flayer, which was basically like a cloud almost.
Yeah.
It's like it's
like
almost difficult to define exactly what it was.
Season 2 Mind Flayer was like just kind of difficult to define. And then Season 3 Mind Flayer was like taking over people's bodies, like morphing together into this
it was like Billy.
Yeah, this big entity. It was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There was the goo.
Yeah, the goo. The mind goo.
The goo. Yes. And then Vecna is like a dude.
Yeah,
like,
he's a dude.
He talks. He's got dialogues.
He's a dude. He's in a creepy mansion in the Upside Down.
Yeah.
I love his scenes so far. Like, all of them have been really good. Oh. Yeah. And it's always like I remember, I'm sure I can be quoted on this during the second episode. I remember Nancy was driving to the trailer park with that one nerd dude, and I'm like, God, I really hope he doesn't last too long, because I'm not sure I like this guy very much at all. And
Yeah.
And then 20 minutes later, I see him walk into the woods and see a clock, and I was like, oh, I didn't know he'd be gone that quick.
Yes. I
Yeah.
remember like seeing when Chrissy died in episode 1.
Yeah.
I did not think they were gonna go that hard.
No, my
I
God.
was like, holy shit, guys.
Like, there's obviously the gore part of it, but Vecna, like, coming up and
Yeah.
being like, I will take your pain away is, like, just so scary. Like, that is,
Yeah, I think so, the show, I feel like the show is made for the people that are the same age as like Millie Bobby Brown and Phil Wolfhard and those guys.
Yeah,
So
which is
our
us.
age basically.
Yeah.
So when Stranger Things first came out, I was 13 years old. So, it's still a bit young to show some really like violent stuff. But it's old enough to show a bit.
To show some
Show
stuff,
the
yeah.
beginnings. Show a bit. Yeah.
It's definitely, like the first season is definitely more, like, kind of like, a bit of, like, goofy 80s horror, like, a lot of those influences
Yeah.
with a few dark moments.
It's like the Goonies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Goonies.
But now that we're here, we're starting to see
It's
some...
much more there's like some almost body horror shit.
with
It's I mean, now I'm 19 years old, you're 20. It's like we're at the age where, like the people that started watching Stranger Things when it came out are now at the age where they're able to be shown some very dark shit like that.
Yeah.
Which I love. I remember seeing the first scene where Chrissy died with my brother, and we were both like, yo, whoa. That was great. But yeah, I really liked season 4, and I'm really excited to talk about the rest.
Oh, me too.
I'll
try to get.
But I do think the Stranger Things is actually a really good show.
Oh yeah, I think so
And,
too. I'll try to get at least. I'll try to get at least 3 more episodes.
Yeah, it's just a really good show, and I'm really happy that people are talking about it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Because it's I feel like people on social media only talk about Stranger Things when like the show's coming out, and in the few months like after that, and then it just quiets down. But yeah,
you're just glad to be in that time right now where people are talking about it. Yeah. So yeah, I like it. But that's what I think so far. We'll talk about more of it when I've watched some more of it. And I guess that's it for now. So spoiler segment over.
Hey.
Right. Let's see. What are some?
So I guess.
Oh yeah.
Was that all that you watched?
Yeah, that was about it. So go ahead and talk about some of your highlights from the last month, or just a week or two.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with that. I finished my 30 movies in June challenge, which means that I am now at over 1,000 movies logged on Letterboxd, which is something that I talked about. I know I talked about it in the like our New Year's episode, which was the Spider-Man episode. I mentioned like, my only hope this year is to get to 1,000 movies, and I did it like halfway through the year. So just to talk about the different movies that I've seen since the last episode, I saw one of the movies that I really liked was All That Jazz.
Oh, okay.
Which is a movie really about Broadway. It was made by a Broadway a Broadway director basically, and it's about this guy who is working on this new Broadway musical, and he's working on the musical, but he's also having sex like all the time everywhere, and he's just got this crazy life that is very difficult to live through, and it basically shows like his struggle and I think as a Broadway fan, this movie is so much fun, and I really recommend it, and it's such especially I won't say anything, but the last 20 minutes I feel like are just so crazy, and it was a great watch. Then I saw Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, which was really good. It was fun being reminded that Jason Statham is British, because in my head he's I don't know why in my head he's American, but it's great to see him in there. I didn't know that Sting was gonna be in that. That's cool. And yeah, the movie's really fun. I'm noticing that I like UK gangster movies. But I will say there is something, I don't know what it is. There is something about British movies that I really like. Then I saw At Eternity's Gate, which is a movie about Vincent Van Gogh with Willem Dafoe playing Van Gogh. I wasn't too big on that. I don't know. I thought it was a bit boring, and I don't know. There was a lot of stuff that I just wasn't too big on, which is a shame. But it's still somewhat good.
Right.
Then I had this phase where I was just like, I got even more into Foo Fighters, and I basically spent like a few days just watching stuff from the Foo Fighters and all. And I saw 2 years ago for their 25th anniversary, they made a special video, which was just basically like all the members of the band sitting in a room and watching some old pictures of the band's history, and that was really fun. Then I saw, for some reason I had never seen it, but I saw the famous Nirvana Unplugged show that they made for MTV back in '93.
Extremely iconic.
Which is just such a iconic as fuck. And then kind of in the same vibe, I saw the Nirvana show live at the Paramount, which is kind of crazy because it was, so I don't know what kind of cameras they used to make it, but it was remastered a few years ago, and it looks like it's from a movie. Like I don't know what it is, but it looks like it comes out of a movie, and it's not actually just a show that they filmed. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, so that's that. And then I saw Sound City, which is a documentary directed by Dave Grohl. And it's basically about the studio, a studio in Hollywood called Sound City, which a bunch of crazy albums were recorded there. I guess the two most famous albums are Rumors by Fleetwood Mac and obviously Nevermind by Nirvana.
Rumors is one of my favorite albums of all time. I'm gonna have to check that out.
And so I'm kind of lost in my thoughts. Did I mention that the movie is directed by Dave Grohl?
Yes, you did.
All right, good. And yeah, so basically the movie is about the history of the studio. It's about the different stories. It's about the different musicians that recorded there. It's pretty interesting. I will say that. Then I saw, because I randomly discovered that it was on Netflix, I saw And Now for Something Completely Different, which is the first movie of Monty Python. And it's basically just a bunch of remakes of their best skits from the Monty Python TV show, the Flying Circus. And there's some of my favorite skits in that movie. So that was a lot of fun to watch. I don't know if you've ever seen this one, but it's with like a bunch of kind of gangster grandmas.
What's it?
And it's just...
Oh, I may have seen that. I don't quite remember, but that sounds vaguely familiar.
It's... Yeah. it's really funny. I think it's really great. It's kind of stupid, but in the best way. Oh, I almost forgot to mention another movie that I saw, which is They Live by John Carpenter.
Ooh, I am really wanting to see that. Was that
which I don't get it.
good? You don't get it?
It's not. See, the thing is, because on the day that I saw that was I think the 40th anniversary of The Thing, and I was seeing a bunch of posts of like, oh man, can we just talk about how great of a director John Carpenter is? And I was like, yeah, sure, let's talk about that. And people were talking about some of his movies, obviously The Thing, but they were also talking about Halloween, all those Big Trouble in Little China, and a lot of people were talking about They Live. And I feel like They Live is far from a great movie.
Oh, okay.
It kind of feels like those stupid, cheaply made horror movies, you know, those types of movies. Except it's made by John Carpenter, and it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that I really did not like a lot about the movie. First of all, like, this movie is a massive message on like consumerism, and it's, I think, the least subtle message I've ever seen for a movie. And it's like, I got it 5 minutes in, and it's like, all right, I get it.
No, I
get it.
I get that totally. It was like, that was the same thing I felt
Yeah.
with the recent Alex Garland movie, Men. It was a movie that
Oh yeah.
I thought, because like immediately going into, you were like the first like 10 minutes, you're like, oh, I bet it's about like toxic masculinity. And throughout the movie, you're thinking like, oh, maybe there's some other stuff in here too. And then by the end of the movie, you're like, no, that was it. Like, this doesn't really have much more to say. It doesn't really have much more to say than that. And I was very like disappointed. I also don't really like how they ended up bringing it up in the end. I'm sure I talked about it, but it's a crazy.
Yeah.
It is just a movie that does not know how to stick the landing at all. But yeah, it's definitely, I definitely can feel that.
Yeah. Oh, there was also another thing that I really hated about it, which is, so the main character in the movie is played by Roddy Piper, who's a WWE wrestler.
Yes.
And I don't know, I guess they thought, so he's actually like, doesn't do a bad job. He's not amazing as an actor, but he does the job. I'll say that. I don't have really anything against him.
Right.
But I guess they thought like, oh, we got Roddy Piper, we should probably like get him to fight at some point in the movie. So there's this weird fight scene between him and Keith David, who's another like main character of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, it feels so forced. It feels like there's no reason for the scene to be there. And it's also like, first of all, it's one of the most boring fight scenes I've ever seen. Like, it's so slow and it's so sloppy.
There's this,
and it's
that is so funny.
So long.
That's so funny you bring that up, because this is a crazy reference. But in Saints Row 4, the video game Saints Row 4, both Keith David and Roddy Piper are in the game. But they have like different roles, and for some reason they're like, hey, let's sneak in a fight scene with the two of them to reference They Live. And during the fight scene, I'm pretty sure a couple of characters like, this sucks, just stop, like. I remember something about that. I definitely remember there being a fight scene, and I just remember it being pretty funny.
Yeah. But yeah, so it really wasn't amazing at all. I thought it was kind of badly made, especially compared to like, it's the guy that made The Thing. I love The Thing.
Of course.
I'm wearing a t-shirt of The Thing right now. But yeah, so that was kind of disappointing. But then I saw a fucking great movie.
Oh.
I saw Mad Max Fury Road.
Ooh.
Yo, that shit's fucking crazy, man. Dude, it was, I think, like maybe the most exciting action movie I've seen. Like, I spent like basically the entire movie, like my face on the screen, just being like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next?
Really?
Um,
I've heard so many good things. One of these days I just need to delve into the Mad Max series because I've never seen any of them.
yeah, yeah, I got to do that as well. Got to see the other ones, but I mean, yeah, Fury Road is just really, really good. I love the universe. I love just the action. Any action scene in this movie is so cool. Uh that was so much fun. I really liked it. And then I saw Rear Window by Alfred Hitchcock. Just
Oh,
because so basically, like, until that, the only Hitchcock movie that I'd seen was Psycho, which I saw when I was 12 years old.
right.
So I thought, I should probably watch another one. So I decided to go with this one, and it was really good.
Nice.
I don't have a lot of stuff to say about it though, but it was, a really well made thriller. Um, it was fun. And then I saw my 1000th movie.
Your thousand. What was
I
it?
put a lot of
Lay it on me. What?
I put a lot of thought into what it should be,
Mm-hmm.
and I decided to go for many reasons. I decided to go with Casablanca.
Ooh. What did you think of
That was
Casablanca?
that was actually really good.
It's a good movie,
Um,
yeah.
It's a good movie. There's a lot of good stuff about it. I feel like it's a weird thing to say, but I like the politics about this movie. I liked how it showed a different side of the war. It showed a group of people that were impacted by the war in a way that we're not very used to hearing about. I feel like when talking about World War II, we only talk about the army and the Holocaust, which obviously sides that we need to talk about. But I feel like that was also really interesting. Another thing that was even more interesting is this movie came out in 1942, so it was like it wasn't, oh, let's talk about the war that just happened. It was like, hey, let's talk about the war that's happening right now. And it talks about the main characters in the movie are talking about like how they used to live in Paris and they had to leave because of the war, and to them it's like, when the movie came out, that was like barely like, I don't even know if it was 2 years ago. So I think that's kind of crazy, and I really like that kind of stuff.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, that was really good, and I'm honestly glad that it was my 1000th movie.
Wow.
Um, then so very quickly, I'm just gonna go through the 4 movies that I've seen since, because after 30 movies in a month, I kind of got burned out a bit, so I hadn't watched that much stuff since. But I saw Late Spring by Yasujiro Ozu.
Mm-hmm.
Just randomly thought like, hey, I should watch another one of his movies, so I did, and it was good. I feel like I'll wait a bit for getting really into Yasujiro Ozu. I feel like I'll wait to get a bit older and a bit more like knowledge about movies, if that makes sense.
I get it. No, I get it. It's just not the time.
Which is kind of the same thing that I'm doing with Fellini, but I don't know. It's like I'm not ready yet for
I get
his
that.
movies, in a way. But that was good. That was a good movie, and it's a movie about like marriage in Japan back in the 40s, which is like, if you're a girl in Japan, you have to get married, and it's about this woman who does not want to get, yeah, but so yeah, it's about this woman who really does not want to get married, and it's kind of like this thing of her trying to convince other people that it's fine if she doesn't get married, and yeah, so it was good.
Hmm.
Then I saw Wayne's World.
Wayne's World. Okay.
Yeah. It's surprisingly my first time seeing it. But I'd seen a bunch of scenes, obviously. Like, I mean, the Bohemian Rhapsody scene is so iconic. Same thing with the product placement scene. That was good.
Yeah.
And I will say, that's a great movie to watch high.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen it since I was a very young kid, so obviously I wasn't high.
Right.
But I'll have to watch. I'll have to watch.
That would have
it
been
someday.
weird.
Would have been would have been a little strange.
But it's such a fun time. Then I saw Prisoners by another movie by Denis Villeneuve, which I feel like it's been a while since we talked about him.
It has been a little while.
That was really good. It might... No, never mind. It's not... I do still prefer Arrival, but it's really, really good. And it's... I feel like it really shows how good of an actor like Hugh Jackman can be. I feel like he's really good. He's really good in that movie. And then, of course, you've also got like Jake Gyllenhaal and Paul Dano, but it's like, you know, they're always good in all of their movies, so it's kind of like useless to say that they were good in that one.
Mm-hmm.
But they were really good in that one, though. And then the last movie that I saw so that was kind of a weird one. I heard about it on the day, the first time I heard about it was the day that I saw it. It's a movie called Walkabout by a director named Nicholas Roeg, who made movies such as he made the horror movie Don't Look Now. He also made the movie with David Bowie, The Men Who Fell to Earth.
Okay.
He also made a movie which I heard is really fucked up with Art Garfunkel, which I'll have to watch, but I think it's kind of weird. And basically, so the story of this movie is kind of weird. It's set in Australia, and it's about this dad that takes his son and his daughter to like the desert to have a picnic. And while they're all getting ready, the dad pulls a gun and tries to kill his kids. And they end up escaping, and the dad kills himself. And now the kids, the two kids, like the teenage girl and the young boy, are both alone in the desert, and they have to get home. And basically the movie is about them trying to get home. It's weird. It's really weird.
Well, there goes another movie to
it's
my
funny
watch
too. Is
list.
like it's not a horror movie, but you can definitely see that the director has made a bunch of horror movies in the past, because it's really got that vibe, that like thriller vibe. It's honestly, it's pretty good. It's not. I didn't like adore it or anything. It's like it's fine.
Yeah.
But well, no, not fine. It's more than that. But I don't know. I feel like I kind of had mixed opinions about it in some way. It didn't really like captivate me throughout the whole thing, but still, that was pretty good. And Nicholas Roeg, I have to say, is a director that I really have to watch a lot of his movies, because he seems to have just such a wild filmography. And yeah, I'm just finding out that he made a book about the Bible. Why not?
Why not? Yeah.
Why not? Yeah, sure. Sure. But the one that I really want to watch is Don't Look Up, which is I've heard a lot of stuff about it. I've heard that it's like a really good horror movie. And I'm very intrigued about it, so I will watch it in the future.
Would you say the name of that was?
And that's kind of it for what I saw.
Phil, what'd you say the name of that movie was?
Don't Look Now.
Oh, okay. My Discord, I think
No,
my Discord might have cut out for a second, because I thought you said "Don't Look Up," and I just like looked straight.
No.
My eyes just went straight to the camera. I just went, oh. No, I know. Oh boy.
But yeah, so that was it for the movies that I saw since the last episode.
Well, all right.
All right.
Well, I think that's about all we had to talk about, and we're definitely over the 2 hour mark. So
Yeah.
I mean, usually this is the part of the episode where we pick out the movie that we're gonna talk about next week, but we kind of already have that.
Yeah.
With Forrest Gump, which will be talked about next week. It was not that it was completely last minute, but we just thought that we should do a special thing for our 1 year anniversary.
Yes.
So this is that, and thank you for watching.
Yes.
Is there anything else you wanted to add before we finish off today?
I think that's kind of it. Yeah.
Well, all right. Thank you everybody for watching, and we will see you in the next episode with Forrest Gump.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye.